good evening, everybody. I don't know who's with us tonight, whether we've got anyone there or not. I'm just going to check that we are actually streaming into the group and it all seems to be working. Hopefully. We have some technology playing the game. Yeah, that looks like that's beginning. So thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Tonight I have Sian Clark as my guest. Quite a few people in the group know Sian. I know she's really good at networking and getting to know lots of people, but for people who don't know you, Sian, I wonder if you could just introduce yourself a bit to everybody, please.
Yeah, of course. Hello everyone. Yeah, first of all, I just like to say, I feel a little bit like I'm standing on the shoulders of giants this evening. I've really enjoyed listening to these lives, and thank you so much for inviting me to come on, and I'm really happy to share my experiences and journey so far. So thank you.
It's great to have you here. You've got so much to share with us tonight.
So about me. So I've got a 25-year background of nursing in the NHS, and pretty early on I specialised in intensive care, and then spent the last 12 years of my nursing career working as a senior sister in the critical care outreach team in a large teaching hospital in Manchester. So yeah, I think really my interest and my love of property really stems back from my entrepreneurial mum, who kind of broke convention in the 80s and started flipping properties before it came like really popular to do that. So I kind of went on and bought my first investment property in 2003. Fantastic. And then over the next 12 years kind of did various different property projects alongside nursing. And then, in 2015, I decided that I wanted to do property full time, and I had a big shift in momentum and kind of did various different property strategies to kind of build up enough income so I could leave my job. And that was about 3 years ago. And I also kind of invested in some top quality property education, because I felt that was important as well. So I did about 12 months mentorship with the amazing Joe and Jane Harling, who were based in Bristol, and they're kind of widely known as incredibly credible commercial conversion specialists, and they're with a particular fondness of listed buildings. And but in reality they've got about 40 years collectively between them of property experience, and there's not a lot that they haven't done and don't know about. So it was a really good comprehensive kind of property education. So yeah, that's kind of my initial journey into property.
And then what led you into supported living? How did you end up in that as a property strategy?
Well, I'd say there were kind of a number of kind of catalysts which sort of guided me, or actually in reality it was more like pulled me like a magnet towards the sector of supported living. I've always had this kind of inherent need or desire to try and do good, and I think we mentioned the other day, I think that's called nurse guilt, isn't it, Lisa? You'll understand that. But until a couple of years ago, I'd never even heard of supported living. I didn't know it existed, and I remember when I met the lovely Sarah Walker, and she was doing a talk on one of Joe and Jane's workshops in Bristol, and obviously that was on social housing and supported living, and she was talking about that amazing kind of care leavers project that she mentioned last week. And I remember just being completely blown away by her knowledge and her expertise and her passion for the sector, and I remember thinking, oh, that's something I'm going to look into. So that was kind of one sort of pull in the right direction. And from a personal point of view, my oldest child is on the autistic spectrum, and any parent that has a child with additional needs will know kind of the worry and concern that kind of goes along with that, and the worry about how they're going to cope when you're not around anymore, and are they going to need looking after when they're older, and are they going to be able to live independently, and so that was kind of a real factor in my mind as well. And then a couple of years ago, I was at a SSAS networking event that I run in Manchester, and I met Susanna, my Bridgehead Homes business partner, and she's just lovely, and we had kind of an amazing connection immediately, and realized that we had this kind of shared vision and shared passion for creating like a lasting social impact, and realized that we could use property to do that, and use property really to make a real difference to the lives of, like, you know, these incredible people that, you know, are in our community, but just don't have the same access to the same opportunities and experiences that we take for granted. So we formed Bridgehead Homes. We kind of set off on the long and frustrating journey of trying to break into the supported living sector, which I know lots of people will kind of resonate with. And yeah, we were really fortunate to meet our partners who kind of shared our vision, and yeah, and we've been working with them for the last 12 months.
And was there a particular way that you found them in the end? When you're saying, you know, breaking into the sector, it's a common problem people have, isn't it? It's trying to find partners to work with.
I think it wasn't particular. No, it was just belligerence and tenacity and a good bit of luck in the end. But, you know, I am a firm believer that if you kind of you know, push enough doors, one will open. So, you know, it wasn't done in a very, you know, kind of planned and systematic way. It was just a lot of hard work.
Just lots of.
But we really have met some fantastic partners who we've clicked with.
For anyone watching, we'll do the usual format that we do on the Lisa Live. So we'll Sian's got lots more to talk to us about, but if people have questions, if they want to drop them in the comments below, we'll get to them at the end of the session. So I know you're going to talk to us a little bit about who you're working with at the moment and how that came about, if you want to tell us a little bit about that.
So at the minute we're working with two kind of leading non-profit organisations in the Northwest, and they provide support and to veterans and their families, and they're doing a absolutely outstanding job, and have achieved so much really within that area. And you know, I think it's not uncommon for you know men and women to come out of the armed forces, and they've seen some horrific things, and you know, they've suffered so much trauma, and it can often lead to, you know, really severe PTSD, and you know, drug and alcohol dependency, and you know, sometimes imprisonment, and you know, family breakdown, and it's, you know, unacceptable numbers then end up homeless, and I think current figures are suggesting it's about 9,000 in the UK that end up homeless.
Well, veterans that are currently homeless.
Yeah. So there's a lot of, you know, work to be done really, and so our partners kind of focus on a really sort of holistic approach to kind of to giving the support that they need to the veterans and the family, and so they really kind of give support and guidance in so many different areas, but they've got a heavy focus on kind of health and well-being, and you know, education and employment, and obviously, you know, they put in measures to deal with drug and alcohol dependency as well. So yeah, they really do an amazing job kind of based around that. Yeah, we're very lucky.
And you've done a couple of projects with them, haven't you? I know you were going to share some slides with us and show us some examples of the properties and the kind of
absolutely. Now bear with me, because this is where the technology is.
Let's see if we can get this screen sharing to work.
Right. Yeah. Oh, hang on. Yeah. Okay. We're ready.
Okay, you got it. Yeah.
So yeah, we're kind of fortunate that we kind of help them with their housing provision side of things, and you know, we've got a great relationship with them, so they will actually come in and do house viewings with us, and they'll you know, we'll work together to make sure that we're not just producing, you know, something that's not fit for purpose. We'll, you know, we want to produce something, come up with something that meets their needs, and you know, more importantly, the veterans' needs really.
Do you want to make it full screen?
Have I done it wrong?
No, okay. No, not at all. It's there. I just sent the slide, because I know there's such beautiful slides. We might as well see them really well. Brilliant.
That's it. So, so basically, we had a brief for these houses. It wasn't just, we didn't have a house that we took to them. They said to us, can you please go and find us some houses? So we did. So our brief was really very simple. They call it Tier 1 housing for homeless veterans. And Tier 1 is really the first level kind of emergency housing designed really to get the veterans off the streets. So they're in a place of safety, a place of, security where they can just get back on their feet really and receive the support they need in order to kind of move on and reintegrate back into society. So they wanted these houses, specifically small HMOs, effectively 3 or 4 beds, shared accommodation. They didn't want large HMOs, so we were very much looking for these small properties.
So they gave you a kind of brief of the kind of property, and then you went out and sourced that property for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is kind of where the relationship came in. We could shop to order effectively. They wanted them close to the city centre for accessibility, and really speed was of massive importance to them, because they had lots of veterans that they knew that were already homeless that they needed to kind of rehouse, as a matter of urgency. So we weren't looking for major renovation projects. We weren't looking to take brick or do kind of any sort of forced appreciation into the house. We were looking for houses that were in a reasonable condition already, so we didn't have to kind of do any major structural work or anything like that. So that kind of guided where we were looking really. And so we found this house. It's a large Victorian 2-bed terrace, and it had 2 double bedrooms upstairs and 2 reception rooms, and an outrigger kitchen. So effectively we could just take one of the reception rooms and make it into the 3rd bedroom. So it was a really simple change from 2 to 3 beds. All these conversions, they need to reach HMO standards. So they needed the interwired sort of smoke alarm systems and fire doors and emergency lighting, etc. And we did kind of a really sort of soft cosmetic refurb of decorating and flooring on this one. And I think this one had a new boiler as well. But it was really straightforward. It just took 2 or 3 weeks to turn this one around.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so it was a nice and quick. And it's not in an article for this one, so we could do this under PD from C3 to C4, and because it was under 5 beds we didn't need an HMO license either.
Perfect.
So I had a little visitor in the room. Quick visit to the investment figures. So we agreed a purchase price of this. We bought it for 70. We did have a Riksval done, and that came out at 80. So we managed to get a reasonable discount on the valuation. And the refurb plus fees came to 10. And the rent that we agreed with the charity was £910 a month, and they've taken it on a 5-year lease. And this lease sort of, is they take it, and this rent is regardless of voids. We don't pay any bills or any maintenance charge. And the plan is we will refinance this after 6 months onto kind of a long-term product. And the product we've been looking at is a really good product actually. It's very niche and specialist, and it's kind of a mortgage that allows for buy-to-let, HMO and supported living within it. It's like a hybrid product, a 75% loan to value at 3.39%. So the interest rate is really competitive and sort of is similar to a standard HMO interest rate. So it's a really good product. And we've kind of put the NVAL at 85,000 just based on the fact that we did a cosmetic uplift and a new boiler. But we really weren't trying to force value into this house.
No.
It was a quick turnaround for the charity. So once we remortgage, we'll have a mortgage of 63,750, and after the mortgage payment, it should cash flow at 735, and it will have 17,750 of our cash tied up in it. but this still gives an ROI of 50%.
Yeah, really lovely.
So yeah, so it was a nice, simple kind of quick buy and refurb for the charity, this one. Excuse me. And then this is another project, a live project that we're doing with them at the minute. After we worked with them a few months, they kind of approached us and said, you know, we'd really like to kind of work in East Lancashire, and we'd like to help us source and develop a mixed use property for us. You know, there are multiple veterans over there with sort of similar issues and needing similar support. So what they wanted really was around 20 residential tier 1 rooms, but they also wanted a large commercial element, because they wanted to open a kind of a regional headquarters for veteran services, so somewhere where veterans and their families can come and get advice and guidance and support within the areas of life that, you know, they offered support with, if you see what I mean. So it's kind of a multifunctional building that they were after. So we sourced this building for them. It's a lovely old heritage building. It's centrally located, which is important as well for the veterans. And it's around 14,000 square feet. This actually isn't the building, just in case you're wondering. It's just a similar looking one. And it's got current planning permission for sui generis, so its last use was hostel with training facilities, and as such the proposed use actually fits within that same use class, so it's really helpful. It doesn't actually require planning permission, which is good.
Fabulous.
Yeah, and because it was it's already kind of laid out in the same in the correct way. So we've got bedrooms with en suites in place. We've kind of got the integrated fire systems and the fire doors, and you know, yet they are old and they need recommissioning and servicing, but you know, a lot of the wiring and a lot of the hard work is already in place. So we're not doing any structural work to this building. It's a largely cosmetic refurb. So there will be 20 residential rooms, tier 1, and like I said, a substantial amount of offices, training rooms, therapy rooms, making up the rest of the HQ. So that is that. Fabulous. And a quick look at the figures for that one. So we're buying it for 270, refurb plus fees 150, and the monthly rent agreed with the charity is 6,500, and they've agreed to take it on a 10-year lease, this one. And the GDV, we had a RICS valuation done based on the charity taking a 10-year lease, and it's come in between 630 and 650.
Fabulous.
And the exit for this will be to refinance onto a long-term commercial project. So yeah, those are the 2 case studies.
Fabulous. They look like great projects.
Thanks.
I know the next thing you wanted to talk about is about SSAS, wasn't it? And I know you've got slides about that, so we'll stay on the screen, shall we? And you go across onto it. So please. Yeah,
well, I'll just, before I move on to the SSAS slide, is I know some people have heard of SSAS, and some people won't have heard anything about it, and there'll probably be, you know, same number of people that, you know, hear the word SSAS pension and then they get this glazed look and, you know, switch off. But I wanted to raise it tonight because honestly it is anything but a dull subject. It really isn't. And I think I'm rapidly getting a reputation for being a bit of a SSAS geek, which I'm quite proud of. But you know, I by no means know, you know, everything about the subject at all. But I am passionate about it. I am a SSAS trustee myself and have been for a year, and you know, I am kind of active in the SSAS community as well. So yeah, it's a subject that I do feel really passionate about. But I'm amazed at just what can be achieved through the world of SSAS. It's just outstanding. And I kind of wear 2 hats within this. You know, I've got on the one hand, I've got my SSAS trustee and investor hat. where I'm looking to invest my funds into various projects, either within the SSAS or loaning to other developers outside of the SSAS. And on the other hand, I sit on the developer side of things. So I actually borrow money from other people's pensions as well. So it's kind of an interesting perspective, seeing it from both sides, really.
Absolutely. I think, and you've got that direct experience of both sides, haven't you? That's why you can really talk about that in such detail.
Yeah. So you'll hear me talk about SSAS community a lot, and basically the importance of spending time in actually building up these relationships, making sure that they're kind of based on trust, and I think it goes a long way to helping you kind of get the most out of the SSAS. So I'll tell you what I'll do, because I wasn't going to put my screen on just quite yet. I'll just stop sharing for 1 sec, and then I'll put it back on.
Perfect.
Yeah, so I mean, one of the biggest things that I hear people talking about, particularly within the property community, is the issue of like finding property finance for their projects. There's a kind of common impression that it's the most difficult part of a project, and obviously if nobody's going to find it easy to find finance if you've got a rubbish project, but just to point out that there is so much money out there, it's untrue, and a big part of it is sitting in SSAS pensions waiting to be deployed.
When you first get into property and people start talking about that, you don't really believe it, do you? But once you start exploring it a bit more and people start talking about the numbers, it's a bit...
Yeah, I remember people saying to me, oh yeah, don't worry about the money, it'll come. And I'm like, when does it come? But really, it is so true. So it's kind of the average SSAS pension pot is £300,000. So if you take just 10 of those, you've got £3 million of potential money that's potentially looking for a good home. So your opportunity to kind of collaborate and work together are huge. And just to point out as well that you don't need to be a SSAS trustee to borrow money from a SSAS pension.
Yeah, I think that's really useful, because I think people assume you have to have some SSAS connection. So
not at all. But I think you just need to kind of have a kind of a good background knowledge of it, and understand the importance of the relationship building process. So that's kind of a major with it. So I think firstly, the first thing to say is SSAS isn't new. They've been around since the 70s. And it's really only kind of in the last 2 or 3 years that it's kind of gained a lot of kind of momentum, really. And there's been a big uptake of SSASs and HMRC, approved SSASs. And I think that's really down to increased awareness, particularly within property circles, and people realising that you can actually take control of your pension and use it to help build your wealth and create legacy for your family and future generations in a really sort of tax efficient way. So so I'll share my screen again,
thank you,
if that's all right. So I've just done a few slides. Why isn't that working now? Oh, there we go. A few slides just with a bit of detail about SSAS, and for people who might not know the basics about it, this is my driest slide. But it's basically, what is a SSAS? It stands for Small Self-Administered Scheme. It's an occupational pension scheme, so it's basically a type of company pension for businesses, really for the benefit of the owner directors and their families. And it needs to be attached to an active employer, and most commonly that's an active limited company, also known as the sponsoring employer. It's small in the sense of it can only have up to 11 members, and it is trust based, so it's a kind of trust, and as such the members are called, they're all member trustees, and they make the investment decisions. So they decide what they're going to invest in. They're going to decide how they're going to do it, and when they're going to do it. And it's common practice really to appoint a professional trustee, and the professional trustee sort of you know, takes over the day-to-day running of the SSAS, and it's, you know, they need to be experienced in everything sort of pension, tax related, and investment. And, you know, like other pensions, it's a highly tax efficient vehicle. It's you know, all your investments made in the SSAS are free from income tax and capital gains tax, and, you know, so it's sort of extremely tax efficient in that way. And they're regulated by HMRC and the pensions regulator, not the FCA like traditional pensions.
Right.
Okay. So I've just kind of highlighted really on the next slide just the points I think are of interest to people in property. So there are a lot of small things that a SSAS can invest in and do, but, you know, I think obviously everyone in our group, in your group, is interested in property investment. Absolutely. So I thought they might find this a bit more interesting. So it's pretty well known that, you know, you're not allowed to hold or have a direct interest in residential property within a SSAS. It's a straight foul with HMRC, and, you know, if you do, you can be hit with a pretty eye-watering tax penalty charge. It's not to say that residential property doesn't have any place in a SSAS, but it's definitely something you would want to work very closely with your professional trustee to discuss and make sure that you're not, you know, doing anything to fall foul of HMRC. But there's a couple of really cool things that you can do. You can buy commercial property. So if your business owns a commercial premises, your SSAS can buy that property and then lease it back to your business. So you kind of get a double tax saving on this. So your business gets tax relief on the within the company on the rent that it pays to the SSAS, and the SSAS receives rent from your business, but it doesn't have to pay income tax on it because it's in the SSAS. So it's like kind of a win-win on that front. And the thing I find most exciting, obviously working in the supported living space myself, is that properties used for supported living can be held within a SSAS, even if they're would ordinarily be classed as residential. And this is stated like quite clearly in the pensions tax manual, where it says that properties that would ordinarily be classed as residential are not to be classed as residential if they are being used for certain purposes, and supported living is one of those purposes.
And that's really, really key, isn't it? That
it's really key, and it's down to the it's basically down to the tenant types that live in the property. So that's kind of a major coup for you know, SSAS trustees who invest in supported living, really. Another really popular feature is the ability for SSAS trustees to act as a bank. So the ability to loan your money from your SSAS to third parties, so either individuals or companies outside of the SSAS, and the recipient needs to be unconnected for these. It's and basically unconnected means that a scheme member can't be connected by family, marriage, or business. Okay. Other than that, you can loan to anybody. It's usually with a fixed interest rate and fixed term, but HMRC don't specify any fixed terms. So the only thing they specify is that it needs to be prudent, commercial, and secure. So effectively, you can negotiate your own terms between parties for these loans.
Which I guess, again, with a conversion or, you know, a bridging loan to supported living, that's pretty secure, isn't it, if you've got that guaranteed exit?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely. And another thing that's becoming increasingly popular, and something I have actually done myself, is the lend and learn option, where, you know, you do your third party loan for a fixed interest rate return, but then you get a whole extra ROI on top of that, a return on intellect. So if the person you're loaning to agrees, you can kind of add in that extra kind of educational component, and just, you know, really kind of get the benefit from their experience as well. And a lot of SSAS trustees I know are doing this, because they might want to move into an area, so they kind of hone in on someone that has expertise in that area, and you know, loan to them, and kind of try and learn that way, really, whilst also getting a good commercial return on the money.
Right.
So that's that one. And then I think probably the most popular with SSAS trustees, and it's something that is completely unique to SSAS pensions, is the ability to loan money from your SSAS back to your sponsoring company, and you can do that to help grow your business. And as long as it meets some you know, key tests, which I'll go through, you're allowed to do that. And it's a really unique way that you can access your pension, obviously, before you're 55. So it has to be for legitimate trading purposes of your sponsoring company. You can loan up to 50% net value of your SSAS. It has to be secured on first charge on an appropriate asset. So that doesn't necessarily need to be the asset that it might be buying. It could be secured on a first charge on any unencumbered asset.
Okay.
Property, a piece of land, you know, something else. So it doesn't have to be what you're going to buy. You can take the loan up to 5 years, and but you have to pay it off in equal instalments, no less than annually. And a really good feature of this is you set your own interest rate, and in current times, you know, with a historic low of 0.1, you know, your minimum interest rate only has to be 1% over base. So it makes for a really, you know, if you want to go that low, it makes for a very you know, low interest loan.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So now, if it's all right, I thought I'd just revisit these properties just to show you how we use the SSAS to actually buy them.
Fantastic.
So kind of relate it back. So I've just put the figures on the left, and so you can see with this house, we actually bought this one using a SSAS loan back from our SSAS. The independent risk valuation that I mentioned is a criteria of doing a SSAS loan back, because we used this house as security for the loan back, so we needed to have it valued to check that it was worth you know, the money. And you know that it says within SSAS that you're allowed to borrow up to 100% of the value of the security minus the interest payable over the term. So in our situation, because it was valued at 80,000, we could do the loan back based on that valuation. So we actually were able to borrow about £78,000, even though the house only cost 70. So we could buy the house, and the rest of the money went a long way to kind of going towards the refurb and the fees as well. So it's quite a good feature that if you are able to buy well, and you know the value of the security is more, you can borrow more money.
Fantastic.
So our SSAS took first charge of security on this property, and we set the interest rate at 1.75% because the base rate at the time was 0.75. And it's on a 12-month term, and we'll pay the SSAS back on refinance. So the benefits really for us of using this loan back, the SSAS loan back effectively acted as a kind of a cheap bridging loan. It gave us a lot of flexibility with buying the house, but like a fraction of obviously of the cost of a bridging loan. So that was really good. It effectively again put us in a cash buyer's position, so we were able to negotiate much harder on the purchase price. And obviously we've been able to access money that was tied up in a pension, and we wouldn't have been able to access did we not have that loan back facility. So it's facilitated an additional property purchase. which has helped grow our business. And yeah, because of the flexibility, and we're refinancing, actually we'll have a lot less capital tied up in this property than if we put it straight onto a long-term mortgage product.
Perfect.
So yeah, that's how we use our SAS to buy that one, and then I'll just revisit the other one, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the larger commercial one.
This is the larger commercial one, and again, this was funded fully through SAS, but other people's SASs. So us doing third-party loans from other SASs, and just put SAS Network at the top. I've highlighted that because it came entirely through my SAS network. So it's again really just to highlight the power of relationships and kind of getting to know people, and just really gaining trust with them. So it was it's loans. It's an aggregated loan because there are several trustees involved, and they've all received a joint first charge security with interest at 8% on a 12-month term. It's just to highlight that you can work with trustees from different scheme administrators. They don't all have to come under the same.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, we've put 15% of the purchase price in as skin in the game.
Wow.
So yeah, and finally, I kind of, I just wanted to kind of highlight the reasons why I think that supported living and SAS kind of go so well together. And I think one of the most exciting things is, from someone who works and develops in the supported living space, is the fact that these properties can be held in or out of the SAS. It really does increase your flexibility and kind of in terms of what you decide to invest in. And it also increases the opportunity for collaboration with other parties, particularly on the JV side of things, but obviously you've still got your third party loan options as well. And as a kind of a discerning SAS trustee investor myself, I'm always looking to invest in secure opportunities that are de-risked as much as possible, and I was kind of thinking, well, why would I want to give my hard-earned pension, to this supported living project? And there are certain features of supported living projects that are common really throughout all of them that go a long way to dealing with this de-risking, and I think that's what makes them really attractive to investors. And one of the main ones is, they invariably have a secure exit. They have medium to long-term leases on them, and that sort of gets away from the whole unknown of traditional development projects of are they going to sell, are they not going to sell, are they going to rent? When you've got that secure exit in the beginning, investors really like that, because that's one of the major risks that's been dealt with.
And it reduces timescales as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And and the fact that the funding for these supported living projects come from government backed funding, again, it's just a really secure form of funding, so that the chance of this being pulled swiftly is really low. Excuse me. Yeah, so again, it's just an added comfort to investors. And usually, not always, but usually, these supported living projects, they get the elusive commercial valuation that everyone wants so much, and you can gain quite significant uplifts in value based on the strength of the leases and these covenants that are in place. So I think all these points just kind of really give a lot of security and peace of mind to investors who might be wanting to invest into these supported living projects.
Absolutely.
And not to skip over, because I know it's at the bottom, but I'm just kind of really aware that a lot of investors nowadays, they're just they want more than just a return on their investment. They want to feel like they're creating making a difference as well, and creating social impact. So I think these kind of projects are particularly attractive.
Absolutely.
Social impact element as well.
Thank you. I know you've got a couple of things to show us. There's a couple of questions in the comments, so if people have got more questions for Sian, if you want to start popping them in, you show the slides and then we'll go back to us.
I don't know, can't remember yeah, I'll go back to that after.
Oh, you want to, shall we, okay, do you want to go?
Well, no, I can do it now, actually.
Yeah, do you want to do that now and then we'll go to full screen?
Yeah, so just for anybody who is interested in SSAS or wants to know more, obviously a very quick whistle-stop tour. But there's a fantastic group, the SSAS Experience Network, and they do Zooms every Tuesday morning at 11 o'clock, and they happen to have one tomorrow that's kind of really down to basics, so gets into the nuts of what is SSAS, what can you do, and so I can really recommend that if you'd like to know more. So if you kind of go on the Facebook group at the bottom, and you'll see in there'll be a link in order to register for the group tomorrow. But yeah, I mean they also run these experience trips, which are just amazing. And this was one that I went on in March this year, skiing in France. met a lot of like-minded SSAS trustees. So yeah, it was really really good.
And you've got your contact details as well, haven't you?
Yeah. Just one more quick plug. If for any Northerners that are watching and that might be interested, I run a SSAS networking event in Manchester. Obviously, it's not on at the minute, but it's a fantastic group, and meet a lot of like-minded SSAS trustees. It's not all SSAS trustees that go. It's also kind of developers that want to work with SSAS trustees. So come and join us. If you want to again join the Facebook group, we can keep you posted when the next meeting is on. And yeah, so for anyone who wants to get in touch, I'm more than always happy to chat. These are my details. Feel free to drop me a line.
Perfect, thank you. Should we go back to full screen and then we've got a few questions brewing.
Full screen where?
Sorry, if you just end screen share, can you do that, or do you want me to do it?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Perfect. Well, you've disappeared. You've gone all black, Sian. There you go. Great. You there?
Am I here?
Yeah, perfect. So Kath Gibb is saying, I'm glad to see you on here. Be great for SSAS supported living meetup, either virtually or hopefully physically, she's suggesting. Will you be looking to do this soon so we can all learn the benefits of working together? There you go.
Yeah.
Is it going to be recorded? Yes, it will be recorded. It will stay in the group and it will be put on YouTube on the Pebble Properties.
We should, if there are people that are fully SSAS and fully supported living, we could start a little sub WhatsApp group or something.
Or we could just try and do a virtual event sometime.
Yeah.
Quite fun to try and do you rent properties from landlords or just buy them?
At the minute, we're just buying them, working with investors. At the minute, we haven't rented any from landlords yet. No. We are looking to that maybe for the future.
Right. Lisa McCartan's asking, would you be able to get this on a commercial product on this, given it's a 5-year lease? Sorry, I may have missed this. I wonder if she's talking about the smaller property.
The house.
Yeah.
It was a sort of a semi-commercial. Sorry, I'm not quite sure what she's asking.
You have to get on a commercial mortgage, given it's a 5-year lease. Yeah.
Probably, but they were so expensive, and actually, I think in that situation, they wouldn't have given a commercial valuation because it was effectively still just a 2-bed terraced house that we'd made into a 3-bed. So I think that one would, even though that could have technically sat in a SSAS quite happily, it wouldn't have got a commercial valuation. No. So that was the cheapest mortgage product available for that one.
Some nice praise for the work that you're doing. It's going on that that you'll be doing later. Can your first example be held within your SAS? So
Yes,
it could can. Be. Yeah.
But it does raise the question of what do you do after 5 years when the lease is finished? So it has to kind of be thought about, really, about then the cost of moving it back out again, and if you can't renew your lease to the charity. So there is that sort of issue to bear in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Slightly missed the reference, Sian, where you mentioned it states it in the manual of SAS rules that Resi can be used as supported. I think though Mark's dropped the quote into the comments later on, so I think he's linked into the pensions handbook it's in. Is that right, Sian?
Yeah, the pension tax manual.
I'm pretty sure that Mark's put that in there. Natalie Gascoigne's asking, if you're working with a SAS private investor, would you need a risk valuation for the property?
Yes.
Yes, you do.
You would usually for the due diligence from the SAS private investor.
Yeah.
If it's on a third party loan basis, not technically, I believe, but they may well want one as part of their own due diligence. Perfect.
Yeah, Mark Bowen's put the link in to the pensions tax manual, so it's there for everyone.
So is it visible then, the quote?
It's just the link to it, so I think people can find it. If you, do
you want me? I can put it on my screen if you like.
Perhaps we'll just add it in the comments if people want to see it. How did you get started in the minefield of navigating charities, registered providers, etc.?
I just kind of made a list and started ringing and calling, really.
Did you have the vision that you wanted to do veteran? Was it?
Well, not initially.
No.
Actually, I have found a real inner love of veterans. Not initially. It was kind of a general supported living thing, but when we met our partners, we were so bowled over by how brilliant they were and what they were doing, and now we've gone on to kind of meet the veterans, and and it's just fantastic to see them come on, and as they've moved in the house, and it's really rewarding. So
that direct impact of what
it means. Really is. So it's not initially, but we do love that.
That's a fabulous point to end it, I think, isn't it, really? I think, thank you ever so much, Sian. It's been great having you here and sharing your experiences with us all. And thanks everyone for watching tonight.
Thanks, Lisa. Bye.
Bye.